Trying to figure it out.
Okay, we're live. We've been 3 seconds live now. Hello.
Good evening, everyone. It is Live Talk when we are having this great conversation about healing. Yes, I feel it in my spirit, and that's where it starts, really. So we have special guests that are going to talk about what it really means to heal into your best life, the best version of yourself, And so, yeah, let's get started and feel free to share, to drop your comments, to share your story or struggles when it comes to healing certain things in your life, because this is a community talk and we all about, helping others transform as well as working on ourselves, so you're not alone. FYI. So, of course, we have SARAI NAMMUR. She's a therapist for Trinity and also the creator of a Circle Champion. Help me out. Yeah, worldwide. There you go. Worldwide, global reach. And so definitely it's all about promoting empowerment, transformation in regards to her group. We have Raymond Wright. He's doing his thing as a transformational coach, as well as leadership. That's going to touch base on how you can transform from the inside out. And of course, encore those who's seen a couple of my lives, Anthony Williams, trainer, speaker, and also coach that's going to drop his knowledge, and he called Breaking the Bread.
You know it.
And of course, bread. I know, Breaking the Bread. I'm Florence Gaspard.
You forgot to do Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
We forgot.
Yeah, I have ways where I share clips of it. Because all that limitation of the length, but of course we'll get started here. And so everyone, like you say, Starting Society, and we do more clockwise. Go more in introducing yourself and a little bit more what you do.
I'm first.
C.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Well, if this is the first time I meet, my name is SARAI NAMMUR. Sometimes it's Saraí or sometimes it's Sarai, depends on what day of the week it is. But my name is SARAI NAMMUR. I am a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida. And like Florence said, I founded an agency, a community mental health agency, and I'm also the founder of Circle of Champions Worldwide. But my passion is to help people transform their pain, their adversity, and their traumas into the thing that they use to step into their greatest self. One of you have me on loud because we could hear us twice.
Good.
Just roll with it, man. Just roll.
I'm gonna turn that off. But that's my passion. That's what I live for. That's what I do. I look at you and I see your greatness. I don't see everything you've been through, and I just help you transform into your greatest self. So now it is Anthony's turn.
All right. Thank you so much. Hey, my name is Anthony Williams. I am the motivational teacher to the masses. And as a result of my teacher speaking coaching, I help individuals like yourself manifest your human capital upon this earth. When you were born with a purpose. God had a call, a plan for life, and it has not been dismissed from your life. It's still on the inside of you. That's why you need to get at your boy. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Amen. Amen. And those that don't know me, my name is Raymond Wright. I am a transformational and leadership coach with Right Way Leadership Transformational Coaching. And like I always say, I am your motivator. I am your inspirator. But most importantly, I am your transformator, because without the transformation, motivation and inspiration doesn't matter. So it's an internal job. And tonight, I'm super excited to share. We'll call this the stage, because during COVID, virtual is the stage. So I'm super excited to break some bread, as Anthony would say.
Awesome. Thank you. So, of course, this is the conversations about healing. I would like, we all to share, what is healing? Let's define what that really means. Let's start with Saraí, the therapist. Let's give us a psychological definition.
Healing for me is facing some of the things that we've gone through, and it means not running away from it, facing it, processing it, thinking about the meaning you have given to it, and discarding some of the negative meaning or the not very empowering meaning and transforming that into a more empowered meaning. When we're younger, it's very difficult to do that because our meaning is getting developed. But as adults, we have the choice and the ability to look back at some of the things that are holding us back, because a lot of the things that are holding us back right now has to do with the meaning that we gave to some of the painful things that we have gone through in the past. And if we could go back, dissect that, and we could transform that meaning into something that empowers us, and that's really the way that we're able to repurpose our pain and turn it into our purpose. So that's my answer for as far as what I feel like healing is. That's what it's been for me, and that's what I teach people, to repurpose your pain.
Okay,
Anthony?
awesome.
What she said, well, she's right there for me. What she said.
Wait, you're down there.
Yeah.
We're like the Brady Bunch.
we're just going with what she said. I think healing is, I think, as I said in my introduction, when we were born with a call, a purpose, a destination for our lives. And I believe somewhere along this world, we start to become average. We start listening to things we shouldn't, saying things we shouldn't, being around people we shouldn't. And I believe that somewhere in the midst of us being this worldly environment, we lose our passion, we lose our fight, we lose our fire. And my definition, I had to set it up. My definition for healing is I believe that you lay hands on the sick and they shall recover. And I think there's the opportunity for all of us to recover everything that we want out of this earth. But healing is a progression. It's something we must continuously be doing by transforming and renewing our mind.
That's good. That's good. Woo! So for me, I think healing is a continued process. I think I know for me at 40 years old, I believe there's still things that I know. Hey, I claim that, baby. I received that. But I think for me at 40 years old, I can still look at my life. And as I grow, as I learn, as I study more about myself so I can serve other people, I'm still learning that there's still healing from things that I never even saw in my life. So I believe it's a spiritual thing. For me, healing is more of a spiritual thing. It's not the wounds that we have on the flesh. It's the wounds that we have internally. And when we can get right internally and we can have that healing and that mending and that molding and that recovery with really who we are in God's kingdom, is I believe that healing process starts from the inside. And then that gives us the opportunity, what I think all four of us are really passionate about, is what Anthony was saying, is helping people to be able to do the same thing and go through the same process and find out who they are as well.
And you know what I love about what all of us had, which actually, Florence, you didn't say what healing was for you. So I'll say it after you say it.
Well, healing for me is in terms of like having gone through an experience, or experience something that has transformed or impact your life in a way you respond in such a way you're not ready to receive, or it's hurting you, or it's not, like you said, giving you the best outcome. And so when you're able to heal, you're able to, like you said, be intentional of how that thing impact you, and be intentional on what kind of response that you want to, create in order to be in a better situation, in order to receive a better feedback from whatever it is. So it's changing the meaning of whatever is happening to you. So then it could be more desirable for you, so that you don't feel like it's suffering. It doesn't feel like it's, it's destroying my life, or it's running my life, and I don't like the way it's producing, or what's the outcome is. So it's being able to be in control of whatever that is for that person.
Awesome. Intentional.
Love it.
And if anyone was wondering why we're all together, it all became clear right now, because we all have like the same, what is it that you say, Raymond? The same cause. We all have the same goal, and it's like we're all coming from different directions, saying the same goal. We all have the same goal, and we all have a different way of getting there. But we all speak the same language as far as
we all are on one accord. Yeah. We're all on one accord.
Yeah, it's getting to like a destination, but it's different addresses, different to get to the same same destination.
But what we have in common, what us four have in common, is that we do believe in healing. We do believe that there's greatness inside of everyone. We do believe there's major, major possibilities in everyone, no matter what you've been through. I think in each of our stories, we are an example of that. We're an example of stuff that, you know, we've been through stuff and we overcame it. And now we're here trying to help other people reach their Oz. And their Oz is all the possibilities that exist within them. So I think that's what we all have in common. So I'm excited for tonight. I'm so excited for what
I love the energy over there.
Absolutely. And the thing is that sometimes people don't even know that they are even impacted, or they feel like they're all okay. I'm all right. I don't need healing. Oh, I can handle whatever is happening. You know, so how would someone know, like, no, you're not okay? you need some, healing to happen in your life. So what are the telltale signs of someone who may need to go deeper and really face whatever the healing process is for them? Get this answer.
Well, I would say you said it. If you say I made it, I'm here, I'm good, I don't need to heal any further, that's a telltale sign that you haven't faced some things, because we never really make it. We never really make it. We're always striving for better. There's always more we can do. There's always space for our greatness to grow into. So for me, that's a telltale sign. And go ahead to the next person, because I was going to say something else and it slipped my mind, but I'm sure it'll come back. Whatever it was that I was about to say.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead, Flo.
Now, I was going to mention in terms like even your surroundings, if it's impacting, your relationships, your job in regards to getting up or doing something, or you just, like you said, it's not producing the right fruit for you, that's a tall tale sign. Because often, people, that I know that maybe are struggling with something, but they blame external factor. Well, it happened because of X, Y, and Z person, or it happened because this. But then the common denominator is really you. So and sometimes it's the hindsight, it's not happening. So if everyone or majority of the response that you are getting back is not the most desirable one, then that could, you can take a step back and say, maybe it's me. Maybe let me look at what it is that I'm doing, saying, thinking, feeling, what am I putting out there to create this kind of feedback coming back into my space? So just like you said, take learning of what's going on from the outside, because whatever's inside is really a reflection of what's going outside.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely.
Go ahead, Ray. I'll go behind you. So
I think it's what I used to do. This is how God made me. This is just who I am. It was always healing for me. I didn't even know what it meant, honestly, because I was so broken inside. So on the exterior, I had to have a tough shell. But I could tell you right now, if that shell would have ever cracked, I would have, because I was dying inside, right? So I hid behind the show, if that makes sense, right? So I would tell everybody, and people would be like, man, you or people close to me would be like, man, you should see a counselor. I'm like, I don't need no counselor. I don't need no counselor, right? But the whole problem is I needed a whole lot of support. I needed people, when I would see, like, literally, it yourself. If you look at other people and they smile pisses you off, there's probably something that you need to get over, right? And that's where I was. Like, people smiles and excitement for life pissed me off because I didn't have that.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. I'll chime in, and I will say that for the simple fact that we are on this side of the dirt, that means that there's still work to do. And I remember, just like Ray just said, when there were moments where I thought I had it all together. I was a stockbroker, had a big house. I lost it all. Big car. I was at the point where I didn't have money to put in the car. And a man doesn't know his own heart, but external stimuli teaches you what your heart is at that moment. And I think no matter what we're going through, it's to locate where we are in that moment. And if we step back, tell the truth, if I react to the same situation last year as I did 5 years ago, then my growth has been stunted. I have no growth. My manifestation cannot grow. And in order for me to change my current situation, I first have to change me. And I think that's the challenge with most of us, is that we like to blame the person to the left, the person to the right, my mom, my dad, my friend, I'm black, I'm white, I'm tall, I'm short, I'm big, I'm skinny, I'm a vegetarian, I'm a pescatarian, I eat a lot of meat, I'm a carnivore. We blame everything around us, but nothing changes until we change. Everything else is around us is stimuli about what's going on the inside of us, to your point, Flo.
Absolutely. Oh, so true. Absolutely. And so, because we know that one of the parts of healing, of course, equates to trauma and triggers and things that happen to us, so because many times there's things that happen to us that were out of control, especially when we were children, or how we were groomed and what environment we grew up in and what we saw, what we were exposed to, etc. And like I said, now we're adults and we never learned. It's not like, our parents had like a blueprint of what that means to even deal with trauma. It's a lot of things that we learn in our adulthood, and so I guess with society. So when it comes to trauma and triggers, because I remember, especially, the focal point of what we need to talk about with how to help people process their triggers. So someone said, let's say someone is stuck, whether or not they've been abused, or they've been abandoned, neglect. They have a codependent relationship pattern, whatever the situation is. They understand that they have it or inclined, but what can someone do? I am this, or I feel this, but I don't know what to do. And I feel stuck. And so how can I start the healing process in regards to changing my situation?
All right. So you're asking me about triggers, like what to do if you're getting triggered? Is that
what to do when someone's dealing with someone's trauma? When someone knows that they've been through something where they just can't, for some reason, they haven't healed from it, but they desire to heal for it. So what's some of the things they can do? And also, how can they identify what is triggered for them? So then they can, kind of work through those trauma.
Okay, so let's start with triggers. So with triggers, that you're getting triggered when you're having an emotional reaction to something. And the emotional reactions don't happen in our head. Emotional reactions happen in our body. So our body pretty much stores our subconscious, because we react through our body. We get that feeling in our stomach. We're sweating, or our heartbeat is going, or whatever it is. That's not really something that happens in our mind. It's not because of something that's not produced. So that is definitely a hint that there's some unresolved thing. Triggers are simply things that we have not faced. They're usually things that we have pushed away, avoided, or whatever. So when it pops up, it triggers us into that emotional state, into our body reacting because we have not dealt with it. So number one thing is when those things pop up, those are clues. That's letting you know that there's something unresolved happening within you. And then your step is to figure out what that is. You're going to figure that out by asking yourself some questions. You could ask yourself, what is this reminding me of? When was the last time I felt this way? Because sometimes our memories aren't even picture memories. Sometimes our memory is an emotion. So say you have a fight with your significant other, or someone you really care about, but in the middle of the fight, your response is an overreaction. So maybe it's not registering as just an argument or a conflict. Maybe you're registering it as abandonment, or your reaction is an overreaction. That's normally letting you know that you are getting triggered by something from the past. And then you should ask yourself, when was the last time I felt like this? What is this feeling reminding me of? So it's not so much about what is the situation reminding me of and what is my head thinking. It's what is this feeling reminding me of? Because if you're feeling abandoned, rejected, or something like that, and it's an overreaction to what's actually happening, then if you ask yourself that question, you might realize, like, oh man, this is reminding me of when I was 15 years old that my parents left me, or this is reminding me of that time in my life when this and this happened. So a lot of times we try to do work cognitively, but the work isn't cognitive because we don't remember in that way. We remember with our emotions. Does that make sense?
Okay.
It does.
So
It does.
what I'm hearing is that you got to do self-reflection in terms of asking, so again, so how would somebody get to a point where they know how to ask or what to ask?
So you want to ask yourself, and if you can do it, then maybe getting a therapist or a coach or something else. But you want to be able to self-reflect and ask yourself, what is this reminding me of? And then if you have an answer to that, you ask yourself, what do I need to deal with that I haven't dealt with? And maybe now you're at a safe place where you're able to deal with those things. Maybe you weren't able to deal with those things when you were young, but now as an adult, you're able to deal with those things because the overreaction that you're having may have been a great defense mechanism when you were younger, and maybe it saved you from some type of getting hurt. But right now, it's not going to be effective if you're overreacting in an inappropriate way at work, with your significant others, with your friends. That is not appropriate at this time. So then you have to ask yourself, what is this emotion reminding me of? Or when did I used to act like that? And why did I used to act that way? Because maybe we needed to be this person back then, but right now we don't need to be that person any longer, but we're just habitually reacting to the same stimuli in the same way, but it's inappropriate. So you got to ask yourself these questions so you can start processing that. And I'm sure a lot of people here could get that concept, because sometimes we do things that are, maybe it's the way we acted when we were 15, and right now, or maybe you know someone in your life that overreacts with too much anger, basically becoming too aggressive, which looks scary if it's a big man, let's say, but that big man is just acting like a 2-year-old. Basically, who throws temper tantrums? A 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, or something like that. So that person never grew out of that habitual way of reacting to that particular situation. So you got to ask yourself those questions, because you don't want to ask them, because they might then get even more angry. But you got to ask yourself. You got to ask yourself.
Flo, can I get in on that?
Sure.
She gives that real good clinical answer. I mean, I'm like, that boy, like I tried to write it down. I tried to write it down.
You just gotta record it. You gotta record it, man. You just gotta record it, bro.
I said, I'm going to learn that for my next live. I'm gonna learn that verbatim.
He is broken and I'm sweaty right now.
I would chime into that conversation. So everything she said is spot on. But how I see trauma, the non-clinical background, is trauma is a result of the story that we tell ourselves. Like the experience was traumatic, but me reliving the trauma is all based on the story that I tell myself. Is linking past experiences to your present. Like I called my mom about a month ago and I told her thank you, because when I grew up, my dad was in and out of prison. Mr. Alabama, played basketball, Division I scholarship. My dad never came to any of my games. Didn't really do a whole lot of providing for us. Would say he was going to do things and never did it. I called my mom and I told her thank you, because she protected my I am, and she never said your daddy is no good, your dad is not this, your dad is not this. It's just he's not here right now, and she protected my I am by always making sure I saw him in a different light, because my dad didn't know his dad. So for the simple fact that I know my dad, he already outperformed his dad already, and now that my kids, I outperform him. So my dad not being there, being in and out of prison, not being in a lot of my games, not helping doing a lot of the things, was not a traumatic experience. Why? Because I built it based on the story that my mom told me. That, son, right, you have an opportunity now to be the dad that you were looking for. And your dad didn't know his dad, so he's better off. He did better than his dad. So I'm not angry at my dad for not being there, for his lack of presence in my life. So it's linking present experience to past behaviors. And we can say that the trauma is causing it, or back to your point, Flo, back to your point, Saraí, we have to start creating new memories, and we have to start creating new emotions when it comes to speaking about that thing. Because a lot of the things that we feel like we have no control over, we've built that person on the side of us that believes what we believe about that traumatic experience. If I built that person, then I can rebuild that person into the person that's with my current version of who I am.
Yeah, that's what we were saying at the beginning, that you have to give it a different meaning. You have to give it an empowered meaning. And something super interesting that you said we keep you were saying about reliving the trauma through our memories, but something really interesting that many people are not aware of is that every time you relive the memory, you're attaching your new meaning of that memory, the new meaning that you're creating right now, you're attaching it to that memory, and it ends up not even being an accurate memory anymore, because it went through so many times of going through, you remembering and adding more ideas, you remembering and adding more ideas about, or more meaning to it. You know what I mean? And then it gets to it strengthens, but then it becomes warped because it's no longer even accurate to what actually happened. You know, our memories aren't accurate. Huh?
What my granddad would say, you're making a mountain out of a molehill.
Yeah. Yeah, you start adding, and that's just natural. That's a natural human thing that we do. We just keep adding more and more and more meaning, more emotion, more meaning, and then all of a sudden you tell a story as if what your new memory is a fact, and then it becomes real for you. So yeah, that was really interesting that you said that.
You know, just to add to your point, Anthony, because I know you're saying that your mom protected your I am, but you know, with many other people who grew up without a parent, whether it's a mom or dad, you know, that's a different story for them too, and they do suffer from, like you say, abandonment issues, where, like you said, they seek it. They seek it in a relationship. They seek it in drugs. They seek it in, you know, gangs. You know, it's you know, there's the space they're in, but what that is also it is tied to a story of, if that person was in my life, things would have been different. And that's one of the things, even, you know, I guess, in being in the therapy world, you know, it's teaching the person to know, like, you don't know for sure. Maybe not, you know? And so this is still where the makeup of making up something that possibly that allowing you to feel stuck, to think, okay, if this was to happen the way I think it should happen, you know, it would have lead me to a better life, you know, but again, there is no guarantees. That is 100%. It wouldn't say, because there's many people who grew up with both parents in a healthy environment, so to speak, but then for some reason they get straight somewhere. You know, they got peer influence down the line. You know, and they got the stable home. They had the resource they needed as they were growing up, but it still led them to a different life. You know, it increases the chance when you are having stability in your life, but it's not a guarantee. Nothing is really a guarantee in life. So people, you know, out here, I want you guys to know that, you know, it's when you want to change the outcome, like I say, the feeling you tie into something, change this meaning, the story, because normally is they weren't there for me, so I must feel worthless. I might not be valuable. So that's the common thing I really hear people say. But then this is where, you know, you mentioned society, you're feeding yourself a lie. Who would say this, you know, that you're not valuable because they weren't there? You know, that they had their own issues and problems. You know, that sometimes being there could make it worse. You know, so it's so many variety of what could be possibilities, how it could have gone, that we are sticking to a story that we are making up, you know, and adding extra details that is, you know, like you say, warp into something that is make believe, you know. But at the end of the day, it starts with you as the person to know that I am responsible, you know, for my thoughts, my feelings, and the way I respond to my experiences. I might not be responsible for, you know, like you say, if I was sexual abuse, if I was physical abuse, if something was I was betrayed or whatever the situation is, but I'm responsible how I respond to it, you know, and this is where our power relies. I just want to add that.
Love it.
Raymond, you have anything to say?
I got a lot to say. So as for you guys that know me, you know, abandonment is my whole, like, not my whole story, but abandonment is a huge part of my story. You know, from the time I can remember back till I was 3 years old, you know what I mean? I got shifted from to cousins, to aunts, to relatives, and I got shifted all around. And then at 10 years old, when my father finally passed, and my mom, you know, because of addiction, she just up and split. You know what I mean? And then I was literally parentless at 10 years old. And I pretty much fended for myself. And at 12, I went to live with my aunt, but I'd already found that thing that cured me, supposedly, the alcohol, the marijuana, the violence, stealing, all these things. So I didn't just do one thing. I did everything because I was trying to replace that like literally just that thought of I'm not good enough, I'm worthless, no one wants me. So I had to become someone that people necessarily didn't even like. They were just kind of intimidated by or afraid of, because I was like this loose cannon. But it as I heard Anthony talking, because, you know, I mean, both of us really connect with that spiritual aspect. I was thinking of in Galatians 3, it's what is in Galatians 3:13, where it talks about bearing with one another and forgiving one another. If anyone has a complaint against another, even as Christ forgave you, so it must also do, right? And for me, I think it's this, is I think so many of us, when it comes to trauma, when it comes to these deep rooted traumas, that we are afraid to let anybody know what we're going through. We're afraid to allow people to see that we have these abandonment issues, right? I mean, think about it. Think of the addict who tries to show people he's not an addict. Think about that. Everyone knows that that's the addict, but he walks around and portrays as if he's not an addict. It's because we're so afraid of what people are going to think about us, so we hide in the same traumas that are really damaging us. And the thing, like when I read this, is it's us as people. I think that's why coaches, therapists, you know, especially in the church, is that healing process, that forgiving process. And the forgiving really didn't have to come with me forgiving my mom. It had to come with me forgiving myself. You know, that was when the healing for me could start. And then that's when I started to forgive myself. Then God was like, now you got to go ask I mean, it was powerful when God said, you need to ask your mom why she left, right? Now I kind of knew the answer because I was an addict myself, but like that was the healing process that I needed to do. So I think we get to this point where we don't want to be judged. So we'd rather sit with the thing that's destroying us, right? And I think us on the other end, we need more people such as us four who are like, look, I understand. Let me tell you my story, right? And we teach them the forgiving process. We teach them that it's okay. The situation that happened to you is going to be the same thing that you actually start to triumph over. When you can overcome, I do believe spiritually that we are supposed to go under some type and some form of pressing, right? Because it says, I am strength in your weaknesses. And I think if we live in our weaknesses, then we'll never know the type of strength that God has for us in our walk, because it's that faith. I talked about stepping out of that boat of your insecurity, stepping out of that boat of your addiction, stepping out of that boat of your limiting beliefs. When my Lord is telling me, here's my hand, come to me, we're like, oh man, but I don't want to leave these things behind. These things are my security, even though that's the same thing that's damaging you. And I think there has to be a point in our lives where we say, you know what? Is where I'm at, it's okay that this thing happened to me, because where I'm going, because who I'm becoming, that's that testimony that's going to set other people free, right? So I think that for me, that's kind of what was when Anthony was talking and I heard the traumas and stuff, because the abandonment is near and dear, you know what I mean? And again, at 10 years old, I went through that, right? And then at 35 or at 37 years old, I went through it again with my ex-wife, right? So all those things 27 years later, I saw it replaying in my mind, and praise to God that I had a relationship, because if I didn't, it wouldn't have been a good thing, right? But I was able to heal and recover. Not that it didn't bother me, not that life still won't knock the snot out of you. And those old past traumas, we talk about healing. It's a continuous thing. I realized through that how much healing I still needed to do.
That's good stuff, bro.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Thank you. There she goes with raising her hand.
You know, as you were talking about forgiveness, and that is so important. Forgiveness starts with ourselves. And sometimes I'm sure there are going to be people listening today that the main person they're having trouble with forgiving is themselves, like you said. And a lot of the trauma we have, it's about things that happen to us, but also it's about things that we've done and things that we can't get over that we did. So I just want to tell everyone out there that's struggling with that to be compassionate with yourself, because there's a part of you that needed to do whatever it is that you did in order to survive the situation you were in. So that is very important to know. There's different parts to us. So I'll give you an example. It's Domestic Violence Awareness Month and all of that. So in domestic violence situations, sometimes a child will align with the abuser because that's a way of surviving. That's a way of protecting themselves. And maybe they were aligned with the mom at one point. And I'm just saying mom because usually that's what it is. But the child might have been aligned with the mom, but then they start shifting and aligning with the abuser because they're trying to save themselves. And then 20 years later, you feel so guilty because you were also abusive with your mom or you went against your mom. But that, just forgive yourself for that, because that's what you needed to do to survive in a home where you weren't being protected. So it's very important to, number one, we need to forgive ourselves. Even before forgiving others, we need to first forgive ourselves so we can move forward with our healing process. There's no healing without forgiveness. There's no healing without forgiveness. You can't even try to heal without forgiving yourself and others. That's just such an important part. So that was super important that you said that, Raymond.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one of the components for healing is self-compassion, because I think a lot of times we don't nurture that part, because, we tend to be our worst critic in our heads. Oh, I should have known better, or that was a stupid choice. Oh, all these, I was thinking, so to speak. And so when we learn how to be compassionate, to know, like, okay, you did the best you can at that very time, because that's where you had, and that's where you are, and being able to accept that helps with forgiving, because now you're not holding yourself to this, the standard that is unrealistic to say I'm human and I can't make mistakes. We all can make mistakes. We have made mistakes. We'll continue to make mistakes, and be able to allow yourself to do that. So then you can actually grow into the best version of yourself. So the best version is really taking the lemon, like they were saying, making your own lemonade. Yeah. Self-compassion is definitely a great component in regards to forgiveness.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's good stuff. And I'll chime in on the back end and just say, if we plan on having anything great in life, you got to adopt this mindset that sometimes you got to miss it to make it. Sometimes you got to miss it to make it. Michael Jordan only made 20% of the game winners. Only made 20% of the game winners that he took. He only made 20%. But all we hear about the ones he made. We don't hear about the 80 he missed. Because in life, you got to take those blocks that you miss and make stairs out of them. And in your life, in my life, in the 4 of our lives, nothing is perfect. I know we're sitting up here, but we're player/coach. We have not attained, and we're missing it to make it every day. And what you see before you is 4 people that's recovering. And I don't care what nobody. And to your point, stop judging yourself so harshly. We have the ability to judge ourselves much harshly than we would our neighbor next to us. You got to understand, man, that you are created how you are for why you are, and what you went through was meant to pull your passion from you, from the inside, from the internal to the external. So let's not, and this is the motivational teacher in me. Let's give up the story that we had about ourselves to adopt the story that God had for us from the foundation of the earth. Even before the earth, he knew you. He had plans for your life to prosper you and to do you good. We got to change the version of what I believe about me to adopt the version that he believes about me. Because in the version with him, there's no condemnation to me. There's no lack in me when I believe his version. As long as I cling to my story and the version that makes me the victim, my life will end up being a victim. I end up living my life by mistake, or I end up living my life with no intentionality. But the moment I begin to give up the story that I believe about me and adopt the story that God believes about me, believe me, true change starts internally and then it's expressed externally. You don't stop smoking externally until you stop smoking internally. You don't put down the cigarette externally. Oh, I think today my last day. That doesn't happen unless you pondered on that thing for some time internally. And the version of who you are today is not a smoker. And that's depicted by you. You maybe it's Nicorette. Maybe you read that has what comes along. Maybe it's you having a grandchild that said, for me to see this grandchild play college basketball, I need to quit smoking. Like it's the version of you internally that builds the behaviors externally for the version of you that God has already created you to be. Believe more about yourself. Believe in yourself that there's something special on the inside of you. Start there.
So I love that, man. Hey, you said we are missing it to make it every day. Like, that's powerful right there, man. Because every day is a new opportunity. I really do believe, I wish people would if people could understand that every day you wake up, it's another opportunity. It's a new choice, a new day. And you can really do whatever you want to with that day, as long as what you said, don't live your life by a mistake. We gotta be intentional. I don't care if you got a job that you hate, right? It's you do that because you're providing something. And I think sometimes people, they're doing the right thing by doing the right thing, but internally they're thinking that they're not where they're supposed to be. And it's like, this is what you got to do right now. Be proud of yourself. Be thankful that you're able to support while you go chase something else after hours or whatever you're doing. But people get so caught up in that first part that they can't do the second part, because it's just that mindset. And I love that you said we are missing it to make it every day, because I can tell you right now, I guarantee you, each and every one of us, if we go back from the time we woke up, we probably could find an incident or an action or a thought that we're like, man, I need to change that.
Yeah.
You know, every day, every day, I know.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
And
Which is
I
basically good. Okay, go ahead, Slidey.
No, you go.
Then I would just piggyback on what Raymond was saying, which is based on continual growing. You know, this is what healing is. It's ongoing, you know, and be able to, you know, say that, hey, you know, what can I change to be better? And knowing that, like you were saying, there is no competition. The only competition is me versus me. You know, because like you said, sometimes we are comparing ourselves and looking next, you know, to our neighbors to the left or right, you know, and saying, oh, wow, you know, they made 2 extra steps before I did, or whatever the situation is. Oh, I need to go able to do that, you know. But the thing is that, you know, you're running your own lane, you know, you're doing your own thing, and whatever is happening on, you know, their area is on their area. So be able to be, like you said, be able to accept where you are, acceptance, you know, and then work in your pace, knowing that, you know, you become it, then you do it. Because sometimes we it's reverse. We try to do something, but it never connect because we never learn how to become it. You know, the becoming is when it takes over, you know, what would it take to think like that, to walk like that, to, you know, to hear it like that, to see it that way. You become it, you know, and then you won't be so worried, like you said, the rat race to try to do it, because the do it is tie into the be it and not the other way around, you know. So
Love that.
I feel
Love that.
Absolutely.
We have a question from Coach T. Hurd. Coach T. Hurd. When you have a family member that always looks at the negative of situations, how do you block that out without cutting them off? I would say exactly like that. You block it out without cutting them off. You thank them for their feedback, and then you still have the right to choose what is best for you, because no one knows what's best for us more than we know what's best for us. Once we start doing what someone else's version of what's best for us is, then we start going into depression, anxiety, unfulfillment, all those things, which that's what happened to me a year and a half ago, Miss Florence. Miss Florence walked into the office when I was just like miserable because I was doing exactly that. So what's most important is that you have the courage you don't have to stand up to it. You simply have to have the courage to walk your walk and to do what is best and most aligned with you. And so that's a really, really great question. And you were talking about.
I was just going to take a different twist on that, because this situation right here was a lot of me, and I'm not telling people to cut people off by any means, but there's a separation process. I had to go into what they call submersion mode, and I had to completely submerge myself in the books, in the audios, in the seminars, in the people that were actually feeding into me, because I couldn't take the negativity, because every time I started to gain some ground, that negative behavior started to bring me. I worked in the construction field. I would go to work and it was so overwhelming. Within 2 hours, the language, the talks, the demeaning, you know, men talking about sleeping with other women when they were married. It was just such a negative thing that I had to completely mentally remove myself. And so I started to tell people, I'm not better than you, but I'm not going to get involved with your negative thinking and your behavior. If you want to speak to me, you're going to respect me. And that's how I started to say it. I started to demand respect, which I never did before in my life. I raised my level. I raised my standards. So when people came around me, it's not that I think I'm holier than thou. It's just I held myself to a higher standards. And if I felt like somebody was trying to lower my standards, like I just, either you're going to come around me and your level's going to raise, or we don't really have a conversation to have, if that makes sense. And I don't mean to make it sound angry, but for me, I had to do that. I had to set standards. I talk about this when men and women meet each other, right? And it's like, you know, it's like, I'm so lonely. So they just fall for the same man that they've been trying to get away from for years. But because they're lonely and they haven't raised their standards, they just kind of like submit to that same old behavior. And then a year later, what happens? The relationship's crappy again because they never raised their level of standards. So for me, I would just say, Coach, raise your level of standards and just tell them, you know, when we have conversations, I want it to be open dialogue, but I want it to be positive. I want it to be growth. I want it to be like, how can we handle these situations? You know, and if you got to walk away for a little bit, you got to walk away for a little bit. Now, if it's your wife, then I'm not a marriage counselor, so I gave that up.
Yeah, I completely agree with what my brother just said, man. But I think there's so many people that's negative and don't know it. That's just who they are. And family members, I get it. Like, they don't know they're being negative. They just speaking how they've been speaking their whole life about just the cup is half empty. No, the sun just gonna only be out for 15 minutes, then it's going back underneath the cloud somewhere. It's so many people that are negative out there that they don't know it. So, I mean, I've had this happen in my life, and I'll tell you the results of it. So I say communicate it. Hey, when I say this and you say that, it makes me feel that you think my dream is inadequate. It makes me feel like that's not something I can't do. Is that what you're intending to do? All right, good. I have that conversation twice. On the third time, you officially excommunicated, because I'm gonna tell you why. You know, he said, "Who is my family? My family are those that do the will of my Father." That means they're like-minded. How can two walk together unless they agree? You can't build anything with a person with that mindset. So how can you walk together if you're not building? There's no such thing as us staying here. Either we're building or we're decaying. There's no in between. Either you're building. If I can't build with you, I'm definitely not going to rot and die with you. For that purpose right now, and my mom is my witness on here, I don't speak to one half of my family today. We can't build together. We can't walk together. I believe in doing stuff legally. You believe in doing stuff illegally. We can't build together. We can't even go to a wedding together or a funeral together because we can't build. If I can't build with you, I'm not going to rock with you. You see, I'm going to tell you one thing about vision. One thing about having vision in your life, it gives you clarity on where you should be going, but it gives you clarity on where you should not be going also at the same time. So vision dictates who you spend your time with. If I got 4 people I talk to on a regular basis in my phone. 4 people that I talk to on a regular basis. If I can't build with you, I'm definitely not going to decay with you. And I'm not going to give up what God has for me so that I can hang out with some chickens. I'm looking for the eagles. All the eagles out there, holler at your boy. I'm looking for more of us. Let's soar.
That's funny. You are speaking language right now.
No, absolutely.
So powerful,
I'm a firm believer that you get to choose how you want to be loved. You get to choose that. So in other words, you get to choose what's in your space and how you feed in your space. You know, because I even remember years ago, you know, like even my journey of entrepreneurship, you know, I mean, I was the kid that was selling candy and chips in school, you know, but, you know, moving forward, you know, of course, you know, got my degree or whatever. And then when I was like trying to go back into the space, you know, not everybody was really supportive. And that was okay, you know, because too, I also know that was my vision. And I also know that it wasn't for them for me, it was for me to protect my vision, the vision that God gave me, you know? And so sometimes what we do is, like you say, we try to, you know, like be in that space where we feel like we can satisfy everybody and make everybody happy, you know, and then this is where, you know, we fail ourselves, you know, and then, so it's learning how to categorize, because I understand too, like, you know, if you are bringing negativity, you know, there's a thing called space. And I practice that very well.
Yes.
You know, and so, and it's okay. And I don't have any, you know, and I could want the best for you, but I'm just going to love you from afar. You know, it's all, you know, and then sometimes we feel guilty thinking that we might be abandoning or neglecting certain people. And then, you know, sometimes people allowed to play guilt trip, you know, but you just got to know what's the real. You just can't be fooled into a situation to know, like, if it's good for you, if you're doing the best for you and for your life and for the generation, because it's not only about you, because whatever you're doing now is leaving an imprint on this world for the ones that's going to follow you after, you know, so it's not only you. You know, and so when you know the mission you're created to be in space, then, you know, you start knowing that, hey, I decide for myself, this is where intentional, and this is how you become accountable for your life to create the life I want. So I choose who I add or subtract, and it's okay. It doesn't mean that there's any hard feelings, you know, and then keep it going, moving.
Absolutely. Deuces. I'm going over there.
I want to piggyback on Florence. So you said it's not, you were saying about make it our job to satisfy others, but I want to make it, and that's such a big thing for so many people, like so many of us, if we're empathetic, if we're the people pleasers, that is a very difficult thing for us to actually, like, it makes sense when we speak it, but in our heart, it doesn't make sense. So I just want to really drive in that it's not our job to satisfy other people. It is your job to be 100% authentic, so the people that are going to be satisfied by you will show up. And you just have to trust that. You just have to trust that if you're authentic, if you're 100% you, if you're speaking your truth, and if you're being yourself, your people will show up, and they will. It won't be a struggle. It will not be a struggle. It'll be a magnet. It'll be an instant magnet. And then the other thing I want to say, you know, there's some people that we just can't get rid of. Like, we can't get rid of our parents. We can't, I mean, I guess Williams just made a face like, yes, you could.
But, yeah, you can distance yourself.
Yeah, you could. But for the most part, a lot of people struggle with that, especially younger people. Younger people in their teens or 20s struggle with separating and detaching from their parents, or family members or things like that. Some people just don't find it right to separate from their spouses, so they're sort of stuck with them. So if that's the case, just understand that whatever point of view they have, whatever feedback they have, that has nothing to do with you. Like, stop taking it personal. That is their projection of their limits. It's a projection of their limits. It's a projection of their thoughts. It's a projection of their standards, but it doesn't really reflect on you. And I think if you know that, it makes a big difference in how you feel. And initially it might sting that they're not, initially it might sting that they're not supporting us. But then on the other side, if you start realizing that those are their limits if they don't think they can reach the sky. I think I can reach the sky beyond. So that if that's what their limit is, we don't have to accept it like it's a criticism on us or it's a truth about us. If they don't see that we could make it as far as we think, well, then that's their limit, if that makes sense. Willie, Anthony, you're making so many faces. You need to talk right now.
Yeah, because I agree and I disagree. I agree and I disagree. And you said we can argue, so this is our first argument point. So let's get to it. I'm Shannon Sharp. You Skip Bayless. No, seriously, look, I agree, but I disagree. Like when I think when you're fighting from a deficit, in which I believe most of us are, because we're trying to overcome these negative behavior, these some people label as generational curses over our life. I really don't have time to deal with the negative talk, because everything that you hear when you're on the bottom side and you don't truly know who you are and you're trying to make it, everything you hear affects what you believe about you and what you think about you, whether we know it or not. And so I think, and I'm gonna say this, I think on this journey, you have to be very selfish. You have to be very selfish about what you allow to generate into your spirit, because if it generates, you start having thoughts and you start making new emotional connections to what they said. And if you tell them twice purposely that when you say that it makes me feel this way, and they do it a third time, they don't mean you any good. I'm gonna give you an example. And Raymond, we connect on this. And we said, and Jesus, when he was on that, he had 82 people following him. And he said, man, unless you can drink my blood and eat my flesh, you can't roll with me.
Yep.
Straightway, 70 got up and walked away. And then he looked at the 12. He said, are y'all gonna leave me too? I only want people in my corner that's willing to fight with me. If you ain't willing, if I call you and I say, hey, I'm down, and you say, man, I knew it was coming, I can't have you in my corner. Have you? I want somebody. You ever seen Muhammad Ali hype, man? You're the greatest champ. You float like a butterfly. You sting like a bee. You got this. You got this, champ. Oh, you went down one time. Get up again, champ. Oh, look at you. You're beautiful in that ring. Sometimes we need people in our corner when you're fighting from the deficit. They're going to prop you up. I just can't deal with that stuff.
Well, I absolutely agree. I agree with everything you just said. My point is towards the people that feel like either A, they cannot let go of certain people, or they're not ready to. If that's the case, understand the difference between what an opinion versus a fact. Their opinion is their opinion. It's not a fact. It's a representation of their limitations, and it becomes
you know, the hard thing is what both of you are saying, like, I so agree. I seen somebody, I can't through, I think his name was it Trev or Trav? He said something about what if you're born into it, right? And I love I just get so powerful when we talk about stuff like this, because this is what I finally said. I'm the one who's going to break this curse. I'm the one who's going to break the chains of poverty, to break the chains of addiction. I don't need nobody else to tell me anymore. And then when you start to align yourself with people like, I mean, none of us knew each other until all of us started, Flo and Saraí did, but we started to watch each other's power and passion and purpose and potential. And then what I think most people will never get started because they want to start at the top of the mountain. Nobody wants to start at the bottom of the mountain. And in the fact, this is what I think people need to understand is it's stop worrying about starting from the bottom and just worry about climbing. Right? And then as you start to move, look, we got a whole team. And you said that one person. Ant, at 36 years old, I needed that one person to tell me, you don't have to be the person they said you were. And it changed everything in my life. And now I'm like you. Some people literally will tell me that I'm selfish or I don't give people enough time. I say this. If I'm working with you, if I'm mentoring you or coaching you or whatever it is, and after 3 months, you're still telling me about that same problem that I told you how to handle it and gave you an example what to do, and you're still letting it beat you, then I got to say, well, maybe I'm not the right person for you, right? You have to know when to separate yourself. Maybe they're just not ready, and it's stealing from both of us until they're ready. Hey, I don't want nobody to pay me if they're not going to change, right? I don't want nobody to keep coming to me if they're not listening to what I'm saying. I want people to see. I want people to grow. I want people to change. I want people to build. I want people to just, pursue. But I don't care if you're born into it. I don't care if you married into it. I'm telling you right now, if you got to go to grow, then you got to go to grow.
Totally agree. And all you guys are speaking truth, because at the end of the day is really what's good for that person, because some people are more sensitive to BS than others. That's all it is, you know. And so, because like there's family, like you know, I mean, there's people, or you know, whoever they are in your life, you know, you can't unfamily your family. You get what I'm saying? You can unfriend someone, you know what, depending, you know. But there's gonna be certain situation, and knowing that is not, don't take it personal. Don't internalize their baggage to make it your baggage. This is where, you know, both of you guys will fall down, you know. So knowing to know, for me personally, like those, you know, who are in my space, well, that aren't as enlightened or as aware that I am, and it's okay. I just know that I can't share everything with them, you know, that I choose, and this is where it becomes attention, what I allow, how much I share, and because then that would determine how I protect myself. It's really creating boundaries at the end of the day. It's really it's creating boundaries to know, okay, this is how much I know I can this person can handle. So will have to interact with them at their level, because anything beyond will go over their heads. And, you know, and knowing that I'm assessing based on what I'm seeing, how we interacting, and not taking things personal, because, you know, everybody had their own baggage, and I can't carry someone else's baggage, you know. But also sometimes when people are watching you and observing you, you become a model for them as well, you know, because there's people who maybe they didn't think and never seen it in such a way, you know, and even if they don't agree with you in the beginning, or they don't see what you see, but it's because your influence, your energy, you know, the pizzazz that you bring into a situation, the energy in the room that you come in, then they start seeing, this person is interesting. I need to know about this person, because we nosy people. We are nosy people. We want to know. We want to be in the knowing, you know. So give them something to, you know, to be curious about.
Hey, that is so true, because there are people in our lives, you know, I mean, that's not true for everybody. That's just a personal rule. You have that personal rule. There are people in our lives that we can't just let go of. And, you know, in my transformation, part of my transformation was, like, without even thinking about it, I helped my dad transform. I gave him a couple books that and now he's my number one fan. He's the number one fan. He's not here tonight, but he's usually out there. But I gave him books, and, you know, if you think people can change, I gave him books. The first book I gave him was the Law of Attraction book. That book completely changed his whole entire perspective. I get texts from him saying, "Thank you for everything you've done." And then somehow he graduated himself to the Bible. And he's a born-again Christian, and he has changed so much. So, you know, people could change. You don't have to force people into submission. You don't have to force people to agree with you. You don't have to force people to see things your way. You don't have to force people to agree with your walk. That's your problem if you're trying to do that. It's like what Florence says, you know, people show who they are, and then all that's just informing you of what your limit is with that person. You don't need to go all the way with that person. Maybe the tribe that you're going to be able to speak your truth to and tell them your dreams and your wishes are going to be us right here. We can tell each other our wishes, our dreams, because other people aren't ready to hear that. And you don't know where that's coming from. It could be that they give up on their dream and they can't stand it. They haven't even faced that they let go of their dream, and hearing you go to your dream just reminds how they didn't do it. Like, you don't even know why people are the way they are. You don't know what you don't know what cross they're carrying. You don't know what they're going through. So that's the part about not being judgmental. If you're able to understand that they're not being judgmental towards you when they're talking that way, that will help you to not be judgmental towards them. So those are my 2 cents regarding that. Raymond, you're just laughing.
I was reading someone's comment here, you know.
Yeah, I was reading that question down there also.
I guess at the end, it said, I feel like I'm trying to please everyone, and that's me around me, because I'm the only one they count on, but it's draining me, not allowing me to grow. So I have to learn to ignore them, and I guess even in my own home. So can we help Mimi?
So I know for me, I had to understand this, and I have this issue sometimes in my own community, right? It's like I get so much opportunities outside my city, right? And I had to understand that even Jesus wasn't able to do miracles in his own town, right? So I had to understand that things that God wanted me to do was bigger than where I'm currently at, right? Because we have such a big world, and we have people who are hurting, we have people who are struggling. We have people that need you, Flo. We got people that need Saraí. We got people that need Anthony, right? There's so many people that we're not going to be able to relate to, that I think when we constantly are trying to please people. I was never a people pleaser, but I was one of those ones who tried to want more for someone than they wanted for themselves, right? And you have to know when to cut that. It used to hurt me when I realized that I was only wasting time, right? And my mentor told me a long time ago, Jesus came, Jesus sat, Jesus knelt, Jesus prayed, Jesus healed, but Jesus never stopped. He continued to move forward because he knew he had a mission. And I think one thing you got to understand is life's going to happen. Life's going to get hectic. Things are going to throw you off. You got to accept them for what they are, but never allow yourself to get controlled, right? I want to tell you this. I heard, you know who Craig Groeschel, right? He was talking about different tiers of leadership. And he said, you got to base things off of 4 tiers. This was so powerful, right? He said, the first tier is any activity that is mission critical, right? What is your mission? That is your God-given purpose, right? Anything that is tied to that is the first thing that you should do, right? And then the important and strategic things, right? Those are the things that like are urgent, right? Those are the important things, but they're not the mission critical things. Though they even might be more urgent than the mission critical, but it's not going to get you closer to who God has called you to be. And then a lot of the other things are just outside things that people want you to do. And we got to learn to tell people, no, right? No, I'm not doing that today. No, like, you're a jerk. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll be a jerk today, but I'm still not doing it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'll chime into that too. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Flo. My bad. Go ahead.
No. I was making a point with Raymond was saying about like and it ties into Mimi too, being a fixer. You know, many of us are in that space. We don't know we're a fixer. You know, inside, I guess you can, you know, relate in regards to us. You know, being in the therapy world, being therapists, we help fix people. It's in the world's eye, right? You're coming to us to help you find and guide you to something that's going to make you a better person. You know, and there's the thing in therapy that say you never outwork your client. You never outwork, and it goes back to your saying sometimes you want more for someone who doesn't see the same value that you see for themselves. You know, especially when it comes to relationships, single women, you fall in love with potential and you get hurt. You know, because you're not really looking at the realistic of how this person really is. You can't really accept what's in front of you. You know, don't get involved. Simple as that. You know, and so that goes with being the fixer. You know, attitude or mentality, you know, and it also ties in terms of like seeking validation in regards to, you know, I am needed. And so it's really to be intentional where the, you know, why you are doing certain things, because sometimes we can do certain things, but it's really to feed something else. So we got to be more aware in terms of like, what is driving me to do X, Y, and Z, you know, and is it feeding something, avoiding me to make me feel better about myself, you know? And so, because, you know, when you're coming from a space where it's healthy, you know, then it will feel differently. It will show up differently than when it's unhealthy. This is where the discord happens. This is where you're going to have, you know, conflict and things that's happening, because now what it's telling you that, hey, you're doing a little too much of something or too less of something. You know, you need to readjust something in order to get back to what is aligned to you. You know, it goes back to alignment, you know, so it's being aware that, you know, we're not here to save people. You know, we're here to, we save ourselves, and we be the model based on what we do and how we act. Then people are saying, oh, wow, I like that fact that you are living the life that you're aligned with. I want to do that for myself. So what's the next step? How can I do it for myself? And then, hey, then this is where we come in and say, okay, we share what works and what didn't work. But it's to be more conscious and intentional that we're not saviors. We're not saviors. God is your savior.
Yeah.
But we're supporters. We support you in the journey.
Planters. We're planters.
I love it. I love it. And I would just add, so well put by all three of you all. I would just add in, when your message was up there, all I kept focusing on is that I am the one. I am the one they look for. I am the one. And it's a blessing to be the one, and a curse, but it's a blessing to be the one. And it's nice that your family realize, and the people around you realize, that you're the one. Even when I was growing up as a young kid, I was supposed to be the one to go to the NBA, and I was supposed to be the one, when you grow up poor, like you got these hoop dreams and you're supposed to be the one to deliver the whole family. And so when I see I'm the one, it kind of puts me back in that mode. But in order to be the one, you got to develop the one. And that's the most important, that I can't carry the weight of 60-year-old Anthony when I'm 40 without putting the right information and right material before myself. Like I make this confession every day that I'm the Abraham of my household. That that my great grandkids will be looking at a portrait of my wife and I say, man, these are they that changed our lives forever. I am the one. You are the one. But in order to be the one and to be efficient as the one, you have to because you are the one, you have to prioritize your time. People that aren't the ones got a whole lot of time to watch TV. They got time go hang out with their friends. They got time to go watch their favorite movie. They got time to eat out 3 times. They got money to do all those things. But when you're the one, honestly, man, you got to consecrate. You got to make sure that you're feeding your I am, and that you're feeding the ones, your kids. If you got kids, you say in your home. If you got them, you make sure you're taking care of them. But you have to be selfish with your own self-preservation and development, because you are the one. But it's not meant for you to be the one provided all today. Because like they said, we are a conduit system. All I am, I'm a conduit system. All I am is an extension to help you get to where you want to be. But I'm not your ATM. I'm not your emotional kickstand. I'm not your maid or whatever. You are the one that's going to get the generation to get the family past the generation of curses to the next dimension. And there's so many of us, and I say this for myself, and I tell my boys this. Like, I understand that I'm the one. David was the one. Because David was the one, he could not build the temple because he had blood on his hands. I got so much blood on my hands, I can't build a temple. And I told my boys, but I'm gonna leave you everything you need to take this family from this ceiling right here where I'm leaving it to beyond the sky. And you there's a weight when you're one. I'll be honest, there's a weight when you're the one, but you're more than able to carry it. But we gotta let the great I am live through our I am, and he showed us the weight on us. His burdens are easy and his yoke is light, ladies and gentlemen. It's easy.
Come to me, all who are weary, I will give you rest.
Yep. Come on, bro, finish it. Sorry, I'm done.
I love it, man.
I want to go back. I want to go back to what I said at the beginning, which is your emotions are in your body. So one of the things that Mimi said was that she feels drained. And when you feel drained,
guilty. She said guilty too.
Drained and guilty. So when you're feeling what? Yeah, so you're drained and guilty, but definitely when you're feeling those things in your body, especially that you're drained, because you're physically drained. That is, you know what happened? That you didn't pay attention to the other things that were happening before you got drained. And I know that way too well, because I would let myself get to the point where I'm just exhausted and I can't even do anything for like 2 weeks. So that's an issue with us not knowing how to set boundaries and not knowing, like what Raymond said, when to say no. And sometimes no doesn't even need to be a verbal no. Sometimes no simply needs to be that we're doing what's right for us and we just don't do what's right for them. Sometimes no is us doing it to ourselves. And boundaries, boundaries are something that we set, but more than anything, that boundary isn't for them. That boundary is for us. That boundary is letting us know, okay, I'm not going to get to that point. I'm not even going to let myself get to that point. I'm not going to cross over that line with myself. So they might complain about it like you set it on them, but you're really setting it on yourself. And when we grow up in environments where there's a lot of crossing of boundaries, or we're not being respected, acknowledged, asked anything. We don't know what a boundary is. So we have to now learn how to set boundaries, Mimi. And then you also said, the other thing is that you said that you're focusing, you want to focus on ignoring them, but that's the wrong focus again. Because if you're focused on ignoring them, you're still focused on them. What you need to do is focus on you. What do I got to do? What's on my agenda? What do I got to get done today? If you focus on you, you just naturally are not paying attention to them. So the more you focus on what you don't want, the more attention you're giving to that thing. So these are little things that if you just start thinking about it today, tomorrow will feel very different. If your body's exhausted, then it's okay for you to take a break. You don't need to say no to them. It's okay for you to go, you know what, I'm going to chill for the next 2 hours. You don't have to go so hard at things. And then here on your comment, you said, I'm trying to fix myself now and I feel guilty not doing the same for my family members. And maybe you guys could chime in on this too, because what I want to tell you, Mimi, about that is that if you don't focus, if you're not selfish, like what Anthony said, and if you don't set those limits, you are going to feel more drained, more exhausted, more of everything, because you're not even a quarter filled yet. So you have no space in this world to feel guilty about leaving them behind. The best thing you could do for them and for yourselves is be selfish, build yourself up to wherever it is that you need to be, where you're serving from the overflow, where you're serving from what's left of you. And that way, whatever you have to give is going to go not just for them, it's going to go to your grandchildren and for everybody else. But you have to be long-sighted, not short-sighted. So hopefully those things help you, and maybe you guys have something to say about like what she just said about
I think the most important thing is, and of course I didn't realize it till 6 years ago, and now I got 4 teenagers. Well, I got 1 adult and 3 teenagers. And I think we have to understand as we start on this journey, I want to say the most important sacrifice that anybody's ever going to make, and there's a lot of motivational speakers that talk about sacrifice. You're going to have to do this. Always remember, the most important sacrifice is the obedience that you have to your God and to your children, right? And everything outside of that will fall into place. And one of the things is as you start to get older and you don't get into the game till later, is you got to find ways to implement things that you do into your children without pressing upon them that they have to be like you, right? So you want to build in them exactly what you're building in yourself. You want to make it really a family affair. I see Anthony Williams, with his kids on the basketball court, and I hear him telling them to push it. I tell him, and he's doing that because he's trying to instill in them the work ethic that they'll never turn away from. So when you're building these disciplines and you're being obedient in your disciplines and you're getting your reading in and you're getting your prayer time in and you're getting your meditation time in, those things are actually going to enlighten you in how to deal with the things that you feel guilty of, right? I want to say this too. The change for me was the biggest. I was already probably in the first 6 months, I read about 12 books already. I was so hungry. I listened to probably 1,000 audios. I went to a bunch of seminars. I was riding in my car coming down I-70, and I heard a guy talking about in dark waters. And he talked about in Romans 7:14. This is my money scripture right here. And an Apostle Paul was talking about the battle between the flesh and the spirit, and why he does the things that he doesn't want to do, and he fights against the things that he wants to do, but he doesn't do, but he continues to do. You have to read it, and you have to read it, and you have to read it, because it's a tongue twister and it's a mind twister. But when you get it, you understand why it's so important to understand oneself. To know who you are in oneself, because the battle, the enemy wants to come to kill, steal, and destroy. And as you start this journey in this personal development field, the enemy is going to constantly remind you of all the other obstacles and all the other things that are around you. And you have to know who you are, and you have to know whose you are, and you have to be secure in that. And you have to understand that life will hit you, and you might have to turn a little bit this way, but that's part of being obedient. And once you can really lock into that, and I'm going to tell you, it's practice. That's why Anthony will tell you, that's why prayer and studying the word is, for me, the absolute 100% most important thing you could do. Because when everything else fails you, there's one thing that remains the same.
Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Let me chime in on the back end of that. You just broke bread, my brother. You just broke bread. You showed up here. Man, I just want to chime in on the back end of this conversation. And I used to think this about myself, like, you know, like, where did my life go wrong for me to be sitting in this seat? Or what did I do back in the day to make me have, you know, divorce, foreclosure, broker than it, like, and I thought that I had to fix myself. But I got to tell you that you're perfect just as you are right now today. There's nothing about you that needs fixing. You're not broken. There's nothing about you that needs fixing. You're perfect. You're right in the crosshairs of where God wants you to be in this moment and in this time. And what you went through, what they thought was meant to hurt you, was actually meant for your good, because greater work shall you do, because you can go now and not fix somebody, but I can go and help somebody from the same position of where I was. And see, I think a lot of times we get so buried in our past that we don't look toward our future, or we're being pushed. I think Sarah said earlier, we're being pushed from our past that we're not running toward our future. Those are whole two different actions. That I'm not worried about what I went through. Right now, what I went through is the force that propels me in the future. Because my dad was not there, it gives me the picture of what I want to be for my boys.
Amen.
And I don't think it was a mistake that I have two boys. I don't think it. I mean, I believe that once we start opening our eyes and opening our heart and opening our mind to what Raymond just said, to that the good of which God wants to do through us, we don't have to try to fix ourselves. Automatically, you start becoming, as to what Flo said earlier. You don't have to try to become. I'm gonna break bread right here. You don't have to try to become. Just begin searching out, like my boy did. You gotta find yourself. And you don't find yourself by going to the Appalachian. You don't find yourself by skydiving. You don't find yourself by cliff diving. You find yourself by looking at yourself how God sees you. And in the midst of you doing that, you don't have to try to stop this. By me falling in love with my purpose and with God and with my passion, you automatically start losing a bunch of the baggage that's holding you back. Don't try to fix. Doing never gets you maximum results. Motivational speakers will tell you, go 120. You got to work harder. Wake up at 4 a.m. But what if I wake up at 4 a.m., I'm a fish. I woke up at 4 a.m. and I'm trying to walk outside. I'll never get maximum results, because a fish is meant to be in the water. I can never maximize what I'm supposed to be if I'm out of alignment with what God wants me. If I'm out of alignment, we got to get in alignment. It's not that you need fix, you just need alignment. And that's an easy thing to do. That's an easy thing to do. Focus on where you want to be. Seek out knowledge and understanding about where you want to be. And you don't have to try to lose stuff. If you seek the kingdom, all these things will be added to you.
Woo! Amen. 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 Hey, you know what? I'm gonna tell you, they got a seminar tonight. They got a seminar tonight.
Yeah. And so what is stepping into the best version of oneself? Because the best version of oneself is tied into how they see their life, how they see themselves. You know, like how you see yourself is an image of how you see your life. Sometimes I've heard people also, when you say the word best life, they feel like you know, it's a moment where everything is right. You know, you live in the limelight, or, you know, like, so let's redefine what that really means to be the best version of oneself, and what it really means to really living your best life.
Man, that best life thing is that best life thing leaves a lot of people heading in the wrong direction from the kingdom of God. That's for sure. Everybody, you know, one thing is I really get passionate about, and we all, right? We all want to be the best version of ourselves, right? but we tend to tie our best version into what other people have, right? Whether it's an athlete, whether it's a musician, whether it's a business person. So we tie our best version of ourselves in what they have, right? And we think that living the best life is to have what they have. And then we start to pursue these things, and we start to accumulate things, and we feel empty. We feel, if not as miserable before. Social media, right? Social media, television, right? That's one of the most influential things to take people farther away from their God-given gifts, right? Because we're the most connected and the less involved. So we don't actually build true relationships. We don't truly break bread with one another. We don't go meet for coffee anymore. We don't invite people into our homes for dinner. We don't do these things. And I don't believe you can live your best life unless you got great relationships, right? So I don't care about material things. I don't care about the flash. I don't care about the job per se. I care about who two traits that I always tell people, especially during this COVID thing and this injustice issue that we have going on. The political field is an absolute disaster, however people see it. I say there's two things that people need to live by right now. Love your God with all your heart, soul, and might, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. Those are the greatest commandments that Jesus said I could leave with you. And for some reason, we do the complete opposite. We idolize everything. We put everybody and everything on a pedestal, and then we throw shame at our neighbor, right? You don't have to like everything about everybody, but when you have someone that you dislike to wish hatred or harm or death upon somebody, you can't serve an almighty God and something else equivalently. You can't. It's impossible. God says, I am a jealous God. There'll be no things before me. So I know I kind of got off on a tangent, but I want people to understand the importance of when you say I'm living my best life, you better know who you are. Because as you're chasing that, I'm telling you right now, God, he'll be like, got it, bro. Free will, baby. Go do what you got to do. And the enemy's going to keep giving you the desires that you think you want. And your heart will become so hardened that those things that once made you feel good, the addiction, the sex, the drugs, whatever it is, that'll become your idol. That'll become your idol. And you want to live that best life, that dollar that you've been chasing, that's your addiction. That's an idol. And I tell people I told a good friend of mine actually yesterday, and I see him posting all this stuff. And I just text him as a man of God, and I text him and I love him. I said, don't forget you serve a mighty God. While you're out there flaunting your money in your cars, don't forget you serve a mighty God. And don't this is one thing, and I don't know, Anthony, you could. One thing that upsets me as I'm a passionate man for my Lord, one thing that upsets me is when I see people, right, they're in this business and they're doing good, or they're this, and they talk about what God has done for them. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, God don't care about your business. God cares about who you become in building your business. He doesn't really care about what business you have. He wants you to be full in who he claims, right? He wants us to be holy, and he wants us to worship him, right? If we have those two things first and we build our business based on that, then our business can grow and the fruit will grow on that tree, right? But the one thing we got to be careful with, what I tell people, man, when you're running a business and you're doing this and you're doing that, and you're telling people, look what God gave me, look what God gave me. And it's like, man, you got to be careful with that, because you begin to start putting that false idol on other people too. I could go on a whole tangent, but I'll leave it with that.
Good stuff. Saraí, you want to go? You want me to go?
Okay, so the original question was, how do you become your greatest? How do you for me, the step number one to becoming your most authentic self and your greatest self is to turn inward, and start. We all have like our higher wisdom, our spirit, whatever, you know, that voice inside of us that is talking to us and leading us. And it took me years to start following its directions. And all the time that we're not following the directions of that inner voice, which I always say it's my spirit speaking to me. My spirit speaking to me is, by listening to it, is how I've gotten more aligned with myself. And that's how all of you came into my life. All of you are in my life because I listen to my higher wisdom and my inner spirit. You know, Florence also came into my life for that reason, because I started listening to it before I created Trinity. That's how I met Florence. That's how I met Suave. But then at another level, what has happened to me over the last year, where I've met thousands of people and it's been so incredible. It's because I jumped. I just took the leap. I went against everyone around me, and I did what my calling is, and what I was told. I was being obedient. I was being obedient to what I was being told to do. And it takes a lot of courage to do that. It really takes a lot of courage to do. And I know, like Raymond, since Raymond and I are good friends and we talk all the time, I know that Raymond struggles with that too. I know that you struggle a lot with, like, you want to be obedient and then you don't know like which way to go and stuff like that. And being obedient to what's happening, your internal world, and what you're being called to do is the number one way for me to become a more authentic you and a greater you. And that really means disconnecting from everything around you. If you could do that through meditation, through prayer, whatever way, you have to honor, because we're just skin, bones, and all this stuff. But our spirit is what's most important. Our spirit is what resides in this body. So we have to be, number one, loyal to our spirit more than to your spirit and what your spirit is telling you. It's my spirit. So I've learned. It took me forever to learn that. And thank God I learned it, because some people go a lifetime and never learn it. They never learn it, and then they die miserably. So thank God I learned to start listening to it. Now, the minute it comes into my mind, I'm writing it down and I'm acting on it. So that's been my secret. I don't know what you guys think.
That is awesome, because I was going down that same vein. That is awesome. And because what you just said, I think about it. There's some people that say, man, I want a great business, and they have the great business, but then you got a great business, you got plenty of money, but your marriage sucks. And then there's somebody who got a great marriage, but now they don't have money at the end of the month. Now somebody with have money at the end of the month, but the kids are crazy. And so being the better version of yourself, to Sarai's point, is how do you judge, or how do I look at my life and say, am I being the better version of myself? How Anthony defines that, and I think Raymond and Saraí and Flo, they all hit it earlier, is that we are three-part being. I have my deity, that's the part of me that identifies with God. I have my humanity, the part of me that has to live on this earth, and then my body is my subconscious mind. So I got these three parts of me that got to live on this earth together. And how do I know that I'm improving? How do I improve every area of my life? By improving me. And the challenge for most humans, the challenge for mere humans, is to get out of living like that in this world and start living like that. You're in this world, but you're not of this world, and start living like you're not of this world means that what I know and what I don't see supersedes what I see in the natural right now. Amen. Everything worth having has delayed gratification. I go to college, I go to college for 4 years, I get a degree. When I come out, I get a higher paying job. I decide to start doing keto today. It take me 3 months before I see the results of keto. Or if I go to the gym today and I start doing curls, it takes me a month and a half, 6 weeks before I start seeing the results. Same thing with personal growth and development. The more I grow in my deity, my part of me that identifies with my Savior, I made in His image and His likeness. The more I grow in my deity, it supersedes my humanity. So now I'm not cussing folk out like I used to, because now I'm growing in my deity, my higher calling. I'm understanding me better, because there's a me that exists on the inside of me that I don't even know. I'm breaking bread right now. And I'm telling you, the moment you give up the version of who you are today And I always snap on folk because they say something to me out my way. I'm going to let them know. I'm going to go down to this job. I'm just going to do just the bare minimum. I'm going to come in. I'm going to leave before my boss. I ain't doing what they asked me to do. I got to let them know, you know what? That version of you is living in your humanity. You'll never realize the true riches. You're going to die average. You're going to die. They're going to put you in a wooden box in front of a church. You're going to have 15 people going to walk around, and they're going to put you in the ground, and there'll be nothing here tomorrow to say you were ever here. Why? Ooh. Because you're living in your humanity. We got to start understanding how to live out of our deity. If you want to make impact in every area of your life, I told you, there's a place where you have plenty of money at the end of the month. There's a place where you can have a happy marriage. There's a place where you can have a great business. There's a place where you can have great kids. There's a place where you can support the charities of your choice. But it only happens when you're growing in your deity and you are pulling your humanity under subjection. That's why I say the things that I see, the things that I don't see are more real than the things that I see. The moment we start adopting that lifestyle, personal growth now is superseded by time and space. I'm not waiting. I'm not growing to get to a specific moment in my life. I'm growing because that's just what I do. This is who I am. I don't speak now because, well, let me just get on here and speak. I don't just speak now because this is who I am. If I be quiet, the rocks will cry out. That my voice is that powerful. My voice is that powerful. This is what I do now. Until we put this natural, touchy-feely, I hate to say this, I know I'm gonna have two counselors, touchy-feely, the things and how people make me feel, and I can't let this happen. Listen, man, in order to get maximum success out of your life, you got to become a no reputation. You got to become a no reputation because you can't offend me. Why? Because I understood this is part of my journey. And Amen. This is part of my journey. God calls a thing from the end to the beginning. What you just said or what you just did can't stop me. My company's going to have layoffs and I work with company. I got company credit card, company card, best benefits, all this stuff. We having a layoff and right around the corner. See, I don't even know when it is. That's how crazy it is. But that don't affect me. Why? Because that's just external stimuli. Whether they lay me off or they keep me, they can't stop what God has given me. And you can't lay me off when I'm walking in my calling. I inspire, train, motivate, coach. I ain't got to do that under anybody's name but the kingdom. And see, all this other stuff is external stimuli. The moment we step out of our humanity and start stepping and living in our deity, is the moment where little petty stuff no longer bothers us like it used to. And that's the best version of yourself that's going to attract the gift that God has already put on the inside of you.
And what you said right now, Dan, is so important because faith isn't just going, yeah, I feel it, I believe it. Faith is taking the leap. That is when you show that you're in agreement, with what God's telling you, what the Spirit is telling you. Showing, just taking action and taking that leap is demonstration of faith. And that's what a lot of people are afraid of doing. Like, it really is. And Florence knows me for a long, long time. And I know Florence too. And Florence did the same thing years before I did. And I mean, I'm pretty sure you have like a similar story to that because it's scary to let go of security, but when you believe in your vision, when you believe in what's being placed in you, you start taking actions. And it took me a long time to take those actions, but there was a time where Circle of Champions was just a thought. Standing on a stage, talking was just a thought. Creating an event like the one that we did, Florence, last year was just a thought. And wasn't that an amazing experience? Those thoughts are real. Your vision is real, people. If you have a vision, the worst thing that could happen is the self-doubt, that inner critic, and then you start seeking people who are going to confirm your self-doubt and your inner critic when you start asking the wrong people for opinions. The thing is that you know who you're asking because you're just asking someone that's going to confirm for you. So you could go, I don't think I should do it. And we don't need to do that. We need to believe what's placed in us, especially when it's in you day in and day out, day in and day out. That's not a whisper. That starts becoming a scream. It starts becoming until, I don't know, maybe a rock getting thrown across your head for you to finally get it. But that's what happened to me. The rock that got thrown over my head was, I was miserable. And Florence walked into my office like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off because I want to do it. And Florence is so sweet Florence is such a sweet person. She doesn't. She just goes, "Well, what do you think you should do?" She started asking all these questions in a very sweet way, and I'm like, "Yeah, that is what I should do." And I'm getting even more mad. and listen, guys. If I wouldn't have done that, I would still be working 10 hours a day inside of a box in an office where there's no sun coming in. I wouldn't have met any of you guys. I wouldn't have done events. I wouldn't be doing lives. None of this would happen. Do you see that? And that's a lot. None of this would happen.
Yeah.
The global reach wouldn't be global. It would have been, my reach would have been Dade County, continue to be Dade County. So if you guys have a dream out there, guys, if you have a dream, if you have something that's being placed in you, if your spirit is speaking to you, get quiet, get still, and start listening to it. And secretly, if you have to do it secretly, start making a plan on how you're gonna really do that, and just step into it. I don't care if it's a little step, a big step, just step into it. I happen to have taken humongous, crazy steps. But that's just me. I was like, that's it, I'm doing it, and I already lost too much shine, so I'm gonna do it all the way down. But just do it. Just do it. Stop staying in confusion state. Confusion is very convenient. When you're confused, you don't do anything. Overwhelming confusion are the greatest reasons to not make a movement. If you're claiming I'm confused, or if you're claiming I'm overwhelmed with this and this and this, overwhelmed, those are key words for you don't really have the courage to move. So think about that. When someone says, I'm confused and I'm overwhelmed, all you're really telling me is you don't have the courage to do what you got to do.
That's pretty good.
And just to get back on what you're saying is that sometimes when people feel like they're, the best life means perfection, and that's not always the case. That's not the case. Perfection doesn't mean best life. It just means that you are connected to your purpose-driven life, and then the spirit that you embody can handle whatever is thrown at you. It won't say that you won't have weak moments. It won't say that you won't have moments where you feel discouraged. It won't say, but it just means that you are in a place where you know that your today is better than your yesterday, and your tomorrow is way better than your today. It's no one having the faith to show up for yourself, and you're gonna see how life show up for you.
Stop being scared.
And then fear, people feel like fear would disappear. I tell people, pick your fear and say, "Come on, you coming with me? You coming with me?" That means I'm doing it. Handshaking, voice crackling, doubts running through I'm doing it because I just know in my heart this is what to do. So it doesn't mean, so you always, because sometimes, there's a few of us will wait until we try to lose the fear, and the fear never goes away. And then we realize 2 years pass by, 5 years pass by, 10 years pass by. No, it's time you walk with your fear and you say, I'm directing it. If I can't shake you right now, but I'm going to put you in the back seat. But I'm the driver here.
Come on.
And walking with it is going to make the fear go away either. Walking with it, you can still walk with it 10 years, and the fear will be right there next to you. You just shut it up. You just shut it up and keep doing what you got to do anyway.
Absolutely. And so I saw a comment someone asked, I think it's Travis, like, I never found who I truly am, yet I want to. So how can someone find themselves? The thing is, we find our best version of ourselves, but if you don't even know where to start or who you are, how we get there?
Hey, I love
questions. You got to start listening. You got to have all the listening questions. Listen to the answer, because I'm pretty sure, Trav, I'm pretty sure you've already heard the answers. Something is blocking you.
I would also say this, and I'm going to bring it just a little bit, and I never mean to be really too hard on anybody, but sometimes you just got to shut up. Sometimes you just got to shut yourself up. Sometimes we're constantly trying to find the answer that's right there, but we keep talking ourselves out of the answer that we already know. And we just got to shut our mind up, and we got to get around from the noise, and we got to get around from the crazy people. And I think this too is, we think that how much we do is a measurable thing of how well we do. But what's important is what you understand. It's not about how much you do is what measures your success. It's about what you're doing actually matters, right? Anthony talked about it earlier, you get some speakers and coaches, they're telling you, run through the wall, do this, do that. And sometimes you don't even know what you're freaking running to, right? You don't even know what you're running to. So you could work, and you end up more angry and frustrated because all you've done is run, and there's nothing that you actually accomplished. So spend time, like, that's the meditation. I think Flo was talking about the meditation, right? Is you gotta shut your mind up. And people say, well, how do I meditate? Because your mind, every time you go into meditation or prayer, I know for me, when I first started going into prayer, and people are like, what do you, like now they ask me, what do you pray, 5 minutes? I'm like, no, man, I go in 35 minutes, before work. And they're like, how do you pray that long? I'm like, I don't know. I just talk to God. And you know what I mean? It's to me, it's a normal thing. But I tell them, no matter where you're at, your mind, you can't be angry at yourself. When you go into prayer, the enemy doesn't want you to connect with God. That's your direct connection. Prayer this is the thing. Meditation is opening up. Prayer is you're letting God into your life. You're telling God, now I understand. God, I want you to connect with me. I want you to show me. I want you. And prayer is so important, but the enemy knows that too. And that's why when Jesus went up after fasting for 40 days, the Satan took him to the mountains and started to test him. But Jesus, what did he do? He didn't fight him and poof him gone. He read scripture to him. Does the word not say that man can live not on bread alone, right? So, man, I'm telling you right now, you find yourself when you're by yourself and you shut your mind up and you open up direct connection. I know I'm going on a spiritual realm, but I'm telling you, there's no other way I've been able to do it. I've not been able, I could read all the books in the world, and it wasn't until I opened up scripture and I found out not who I was, but I found out who he was. And when I found out who he was, he started to show me who I was. And that was the most powerful thing in my life.
That's awesome, bro. That's awesome. And then after you've done what he said, do, all of what he said is first. It's first. And then you begin to ask yourself those questions. Like, why am I here? What do I enjoy doing? What would I do for free? How did I come up, or what did I go through that I hate? Because a lot of times the problem you were meant to solve is something that you went through in your own life. And most of us never ask ourselves, we spend so much time running away from our past, we never stop. The reason why I wage war on mediocrity is because I grew up in poverty. And it's my job now to influence everybody to know, but because you grew up in poverty, doesn't mean that poverty had to grow up in you. And that can be in any area of your life. I'm not talking about the money. If you grew up in a house where there was no love, that don't mean that lack of love has to grow up on the inside of you. So a lot of times we spend time running from what we've been through, and that's a part of the solution for our life. And then I'm gonna say this, my number 2 is, bro, you gotta throw your whole self at something. You gotta throw your whole self at something. Saraí threw her whole self at that practice. She was miserable, but she threw her whole self there. And by her throwing her whole self at something, that gave God something to work with. When he found all the disciples, he found them working. He didn't find them sitting there on the stump thinking about, what am I going to do next? Amen. Oh my goodness. He found them working at something.
That's Pat right there. I'm telling you.
I threw my whole self at Trinity when I needed to throw my whole self at Trinity, and Florence knows what that means because I'm a workaholic. But when God told me, hey, we need to shift gears, and I shifted gears, I threw my whole self to that. And you guys, well, Florence knows I threw my whole self to that too, because I don't know how to do it any other way. If I'm gonna do something, I gotta throw my whole self to it. So that's an excellent point.
That's the key.
It will shift and it will.
Yeah, I was saying, you knew how to throw your whole self at something. If you're throwing your half self at something, you can't get full manifestation on either side. And I think because we don't think it's what I'm supposed to be doing, I go at it at 50%, I go at it at 40%, I go at it at 60%, and you're creating habits for which the rest of your life you have to live with. Throw your whole self at something, bro.
And there are consequences to throwing your whole self at stuff, people. So it's not like, hey, you're gonna throw your whole self and life is gonna be awesome. No, you're gonna throw your whole self and you're not gonna eat right, or you're not gonna pay attention to your kids, or your relationship is gonna, you don't have that much time for your relationship. So you have to choose. It's like that book Relentless by Tim Groves, I think his name is. Basketball players, when they throw their whole selves, they wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning for practice. They're practicing all day. Do you think they're with their wives and their kids all day long? Do you think, no, they're actually paying attention to their body because it's part of their job to do that. But when you throw your whole self at something, understand that there are things that you're gonna give up on. You have to sacrifice some things. The same way, if you throw your whole self to your couch and Netflix, well, guess what? You're sacrificing your greatness. So why don't we flip that around? Why don't we sacrifice the couch and the Netflix and what you were saying earlier, the sleeping in and all that stuff, so that you could actually discover who are you created to be, who are you created to impact, there's people out there waiting for you to wake up into your greatest self. So what are you waiting for? And that's ultimately the most important thing. That's our purpose for being alive. I think it's you, Anthony, who says this, that, just the fact that you're born and alive tells you how important you are. Because how is it that you made it out of all those sperms? How is it that it was the right time this is going to sound ugly, but the right timing for your parents to get together and do the nasty so that you could be that tells you the fact that you were born and that you were placed on earth at this time, at this moment, with the things that are happening, tells you that you can sleep on that. I don't have time to be on the couch watching Netflix. I never watch any of those. Like, the clock is ticking, and I don't care how old you are, you don't know how much time you have left, because we're not guaranteed to be old. So all you know is that you got today. What are you going to do with today? What are you going to do with taking out the best of you today and impacting the people that you're meant to impact today? I mean, I could just sign off right now. That's everything I'm all about.
Hey, you really could drop the mic on that one. You can on that one.
Yeah. Anthony, there's this great story, and I shared this on a Sunday night a couple weeks ago. And there was an Olympic athlete who look, they did the with the stick, and they go with the high jump, right? The high jump, isn't that what it's called? Yeah, right. High jump. And for the first, the pole vault, right? And this person just kept doing it, and finally in the Olympics broke the world record. And they came up to him and they were amazed. They like, nobody's ever jumped this high before. How did you do it? And he said, I just threw my heart over the bar and my body had to follow. Like,
I love that.
I mean, if you really think about that, like, do you know how powerful that is? I just threw my heart. Whatever you want to do, take your heart and just throw it at it. Sometimes you don't have to know what to do, but when you take a step, faith without work is dead. You cannot have faith without, Anthony said, work. Look, I'm telling you right now, when Adam was created to work. Yeah. Period. We are created to work. And whatever that work is for you, don't think of it as a job. Don't think of it as a job. You could lose your job. Anthony, and he brings so much value to his company. But even if, it doesn't matter. It's not his company. It's a job. But when you do your works, they cannot take that from you. So remember that. Put all your heart into it, and your body will have to follow. Love it.
Yes. Because I know earlier when when Saidi was talking about the timing of you being birthed, so every one of us is intentional creation. We're intentional creation. And so with that means there's a mission that is tied into being intentional and being created. And so it's really our job to find out, okay, what is this mission, that I was essentially created for? Again, it's my mission, but again, when you are connected to, like you say, the Most High, to God, then this is where you receive the download in terms of this is right, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong. But you have to know how to connect with that, because a lot of times communication don't have to be verbal. Often communication is through energy, to spirit, to like understanding, but it's based on also how well you know yourself, how inward you turn, and when you're able to understand that, then you start also seeing how life talks to you. Life teaches you without even saying a word to you, because now you start seeing with different eyes, you start hearing with different ears, and then your behavior, which will also align with that when you are in alignment, and it goes with knowing that I'm gonna show up because I know God got me. I mean, I know, how the layout is. I mean, I know where I'm going to start, but I'm going to show up because I know that I was intentionally made for whatever my mission is, and when it's right, when it's right, because it's spiritual connection, when it's right and when it's wrong, when it's spiritual connection. And so, but it's all based on how you are in tune with, who the great I am. And all of us have the great I am. It's how well you know yourself, because sometimes too we get angry with other people for missing this, for forgetting this, for not doing this for us. But I'm like, most of the things that we get angry with others, we're not doing it for our own self, and we with ourselves 24 hours. But we put responsibility on others to fulfill something that we can't even fulfill for ourselves. Now, does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
But often people don't sit down and actually think about these things. So if you want to change your life, you have to be accountable. You got to first know that I am the creator of what I desire and creating the things that I want to birth. All the things I need is already in front of me. Just because I don't see it doesn't mean that it's not there.
Man. Come on, man.
So it's already done. It's already done. And then when you leave by that state, everything is attracted to you. And everything that's not within your, within your space, guess what? It disappeared. There's many times situations and things and people disappear, and I don't do anything. I don't have to do anything because my alignment, the involvement of where I'm going, it automatically sheds those, those things that doesn't, that I don't have to speak for because the spirit already knows.
Yep. Come on, Flo. Come on, Flo.
I want to answer Trav. Trav says bipolar mania don't help, but that's an excuse. I'm listening. So it isn't. I want to respond to that, but there might be other people here that have mental health issues or struggle with mental health. But I want you to know that everyone struggles with mental health, even though everyone doesn't particularly need to have bipolar mania. If you have bipolar mania or anything like that, it doesn't mean it. What it means is that it's going to be a little harder for you. It's going to be more of a struggle for you. But ultimately, regardless of what we have, because I used to have panic attacks. I know what panic attacks are like, and if you've ever had one, it's horrific. I've had many panic attacks, but I still have a responsibility to myself. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what you have. You still have a responsibility to yourself. And the comparison isn't you versus that other person who seems to be doing amazing. The comparison is you against you. Are you showing up every day? Are you doing what you need to do to push yourself a little further? And that's all you really need to focus on. Are you doing better than you were yesterday? Are you stretching yourself a little bit more? Are you developing yourself? Are you bringing out the person that you're meant to be? That's all it really is. And having a mental health issue just means that it might be a little harder for you. And yes, we recognize that it might be a little harder for you. Someone like me that has anxiety and has had panic, it was extremely hard to get on stage and talk. It was extremely hard to get on lives. You see me doing lives, and I still struggle so much with doing a live, like so much. So imagine doing the leap that I did last year, how terrifying that was. That's probably why I didn't take the leap for so long. And it just got to the point where I personally hit rock bottom and I had to do something. So at the end of the day, we still have responsibility towards ourselves. No one's going to come rescue us. No one's going to come rescue you. No one's going to rescue any of us. We need to be our own hero and our own rescue, and we need to do what's right for ourselves, regardless of what's going on with you personally.
Well, I was labeled bipolar. I was labeled bipolar, And when I found out who God was, is I went into a complete kind of submission mode. And God told me if I was going to deal with this life, then I was going to have to deal with it on his terms. And I haven't taken medicine ever since. And I'm not saying that's for everybody, but it was a battle. I'm not going to lie. It was a battle. It was a struggle. But I'm going to tell you guys this. I don't agree with Saraí, what she just said. That's because there is a savior. There absolutely is a savior. And when you surrender and you give yourself up, that's when the true work can happen. But it's an internal, it's a spiritual battle. If you guys do not understand, with everything that you've heard tonight, with some of the struggles you're going through, this is a spiritual battle. We do not fight against the things of this world, in the seen world. We fight against the principalities in the spiritual realm. And if you cannot start to see that no matter what you do, you seem to have a grasp over you, it's because you have not had a spiritual encounter yet. But I'm going to tell you right now, when that Holy Spirit gets a hold of you, it changes everything in your life. And some people will never have it because they'll never open themselves and receive it. You got to cry out. I'm going to tell you right now, sometimes you got to go to a place in the corner where no one is, and you got to cry your freaking face off. You just got to cry your face off, and you got to cry out. And I'm going to tell you, it changes everything. Anthony will tell you, right? There's addictions that will be broken. There's that nicotine that you'll never. There's healing that will start to happen in your body. I'm just telling you, when God told me you don't need none of that, they can tell you all you want, Ray. Those are people. I tell you what you need and what you don't need. Right now, you need to give it up and you need to come to me. And I tell you, I've been able to do it.
Yeah. So does everybody want to be disagreeing with me? I got something to say. So yes, God will save you. However, God gave you free will. So you have to still be responsible for yourself. You still have to meet God. You still have to turn to God. You still have to believe in his promise. You still have to do all those things. You have to be in agreement with his promises for you, which is what I said earlier. It takes action. It isn't. You're not just gonna lay on your couch and just wither away. And I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Raymond, you can jump in and tell me I'm wrong.
You are.
I want to jump in. I'll jump in.
And you have to take responsibility for yourself. You have to take responsibility.
Submission before action, though.
I believe that both of you all are right, and I'll chime in on this a little bit because I believe that, like, any problem, and I'm gonna say this, I think that any problem in our life is a lack of connection to our Savior in that area, and it's not our Savior's fault; it's our fault. So out there, in that regard, you're both right, because the great I am is always looking to awaken our I am, and I think for most men, Homo sapien, male, female, like that, we need to be introduced to ourselves. Most of us don't. We've been living in this world 40, 50, and 60 years and don't even know who we are. We've been living what people thought we were for a long time ago. They said I wasn't going to be anything. I was molested. I was raped. My dad wasn't there. They called me. I was labeled statistic. We were statistic. You might have been labeled bipolar. A lot of us don't even know who we are because we're living under the labels of what other people said about us. And what both of you all said is, once you gain your connection with your deity and you start understanding whose image and whose likeness you made of, you get a new revelation of who you are. Greater works than deeds shall you do. Greater is he that's on the inside of you than he is in the world. You are more than a conqueror. If God be for me, who can be against me? I'm telling you right now, you are a slayer. You are a doggone. You were meant to overcome every curse in your life. You were meant to overcome every addiction in your life. Right now, we're behaving out of a person that's not even who I am. We make decisions. I drink, I smoke because I'm trying to cover the pain of my past. That's not who you are. That's not.
That's exactly how you glorify God. That's exactly how you glorify God, by stepping into that. Exactly what you're saying.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Glorifying God is not raising your hands to my glory on Sunday morning. Glorifying God is you becoming your highest self, is what he's created you to do. No greater man.
We're having a whole other kind of life now.
No, I know, but it's awesome because we're all saying the same thing. We got different ways. Different ways. But my thing is, to Sarah and to Ray, If you don't have the great I am, you can't awaken your I am. And your decisions made in who you think you are, who you've been introduced by this world standard of who you were back in the past, is going to continue to lead you down the same results. Until you get an awakened I am, I saw my brother say it, I just awaken my I am. I'm on episode 50. Join me Motivational Monday, episode 50 of Awaken Your I Am, because that's the key to your survival in life, man. I'm telling you what I know. Not survival, thriving in life.
Thriving. Amen. Amen. We got to leave the survival behind.
Very good point. That's
right. You're breaking bread, dropping some knowledge here. You know, I know when it comes to expansion, it's really information. So not your information also coming from God, you're coming from also experts of different fields or whatever is happening. It's saying that I'm at my limits to what I know, and I need new information to help me expand, so then I can conquer the next arena or the next section of my life. You know, so I tell people, when you find yourself stuck, it's because there's something you don't know. There's something that's something that you need to know that you don't know, and it's your job to find out what that is. You know, and when you learn to expand, you know, like you said, the great I am, and then this is when you expand your solution skills. This is where you expand your thinking skills. This is where you expand, you know, the showing up skills, all the skills you need in order to become the better version of yourself. There's a saying that say, if you tied to who I was yesterday, then you really don't know me. In other words, it's saying that you're constantly growing, you know, because a month from now, the amount of information you got in that month then it'll allow you to make different choices, show up differently. And if somebody had last talked to you a month ago, they'll be talking to an entirely new person. Just because you got new information into your space. Now you're able to utilize it because now you understand, you know, the mission and how things align with your mission. Even though the mission is not ironed out, you don't know every single detail or steps. And half of the time it's going in blind, but knowing that what you connect with is leading you. It's leading you to say, this is where we go. This is where you need, with the direction you need to take. Oh, it feels right. So I'm correctly in the right path, you know? And so this is where, you know, we have to be intentional about who we are, and also surrounding ourselves with people who are of like-minded, you know, because it's easy astray, you know, thinking you're in the right path, and then you get, you know, detoured into something differently. It's because, you know, of course, with anything we do, when we expand, it's based on our consumption. What are you consuming? Whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, what are your consumption? You know, is it healthy for your being, what you're consuming? You know, is it the right type of food you're consuming that's going to lead you to the direction you need to go? If you're not, assessing what are you doing, who are you with, why you're doing it, your why. Why is, you know, because you might be driven by the wrong intentions. You might think, oh, I'm doing this for this, but then in real life or real time, you know, it's entirely for something different. It might be ego driven. It may not be spiritual led. It might be ego led. You know, so then you will miss the point. You'll miss the mark. So you have to understand, like, hey, how do I assess where I'm going? It's like you say, it's taking time to ask the right questions, you know, to connect to it into. And to keep learning, because when you keep learning, you keep growing. And if you do feel stuck, it's because something you don't know. And it's your job to go find out what that something is.
Amen. Amen.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
Amen.
Are
we doing a marathon? Are we doing a marathon live?
I think we were ready for a marathon about an hour ago.
Yeah. 2 hours and 7 minutes.
We should do a marathon live one day, like 24-hour talking. Jumping, jumping.
You know, so yeah, so it's been 2 hours so thus far. So I guess if anything, we can share some advice that we want to leave with the viewers here. You know, so maybe the 3 best things that would lead you to your best life and your best version of yourself. Who want to start first?
Florence is starting first.
Okay. Okay. You know, so the best version of oneself, of course, is know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, it's not a problem, because we all didn't start out. We all didn't know what we don't know at this very moment. If you could have talked to us 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, it would have been different, like you said, a different version. And then next month you would get a whole different version of us, you know, so because we understand the importance of growing. So allow yourself to be open for growth. You know, so again, be intentional what you feed yourself. As I would say, you know, be attention to consuming what you watch, what you eat, who you're around with, you know, what you hear, what you see, what you expose yourself to. Because the quality, when you feed into a quality food, you know, then you get quality outcomes. You know, so consumption, being intentional with consumption. Number two, connect with, you know, being okay with the being, you know, like you said, knowing that I don't have to be perfect. You know, we have a hard time. We beat ourselves up. You know, our being, we are here because we're intentional creation. So being okay with who you are, showing yourself self-compassion, you know, allowing yourself to make mistakes so you can learn from it, turn your losses into lessons, into learning, you know, and so giving yourself space, giving yourself opportunity to be human. That's what the space you want to get. And number three, I would say, you know, keep going. No matter what it looks like, keep going. You know, you fall 10 times, okay, get up to fall the 11th time, but just keep going and keep figuring out what I need to do to become a better version of myself. And then, you know, and showing gratitude of the space I was, the space I am, and the space I'm going.
I love it. I love it. I'll go second. Nice job, Flo. Nice job. You left me nothing to talk about, and I'm going second. I said my top three things is, number one, you're greater than your current situation or circumstance. You're greater than where you are right now. Don't you dare judge yourself at the middle of the race. There's more in you. Your best days are in front of you. Everything that God has promised you, I know you had some setbacks. They're still out there waiting on you. It's up to you to become the better version of yourself, to be able to attract those things. You're more than what you are right now. There's more to you than your current circumstances. Stop judging yourself. Get out the way. Get out the way. Number two, which ties into my number one, you have to awaken your I am. The only way to awaken your I am is to know the great I am. There is no, your I am can't be awakened without the one that made you. If my Ford is having a problem, I can't go to a Chevrolet manual to try to figure out what's going on with the Ford. If there's a problem with my Ford, I take it to the Ford dealership because they created it. They know every crook and cranny. They know every spark plug, every wire. They know how to get the diagnostic. They know how to run all the tests to be able to figure out exactly what's wrong with it, even if they got to take it apart and put it back together to figure it out. I'm telling you the same thing, that your great I am knows exactly where you're supposed to be and when you're supposed to be there. Awaken your I am by accepting what he said about you and not the ones around you. And then number three, I'm going to stick to this one. Throw yourself at something. I know, but motivational teacher, I don't know what to throw myself at. Throw it at something. When I started selling Primerica life insurance, I started selling it. I was knocking on doors, houses I didn't know, because all I knew is I got to get me some premium before Friday so I can get paid. I threw myself at life insurance. I threw myself at being a stockbroker. I threw myself being in pharmaceutical sales. I threw myself at all those things, not understanding that every skill I picked up along the way landed me right here in this seat I'm sitting in right now. And it wasn't necessarily for me, but it was also for you. Throw yourself at something. If it ain't the thing you're supposed to, it'll be the thing that leads you to the thing. Your time is never wasted in the kingdom. Go out there and find out and throw yourself at something. That was my three. I'm out.
Throw yourself.
That was bomb.
Throw yourself.
Throw yourself at something. I'm from the country. Yourself, not your. Flo speak all, you know, she pronounce all the syllables. Throw yourself.
Throw yourself.
I love it. Yourself. Look. All right, I'll let Saraí go last this time. Right? She gets to close us out. So I think for me I always talk about the 3 Ds, right? Is you have to decide, right? You have to have a decision. You got to make a decision, right? You cannot you cannot make a difference in someone's life until you first make a decision in your own life, right? So make a decision and then find the habits that you need to build the decision that you made, right? So make a decision, make it right. The next thing is you have to discipline everything that you do, right? Everything is built on the disciplines. A lot of people think discipline is a cuss word, right? But discipline doesn't mean like, what discipline is I'm going to do and say exactly what I say and do. And then you just freaking do it. Practice it. Flo said you ain't going to be perfect. Anthony said throw yourself at something. Look, you got to know it ain't going to be perfect. It ain't going to be pretty, but it's the practice over and over and over. Jordan, right? These guys, think about it. They make 50% of their shots, which means they miss 50% of their shots. Don't worry about it. The best hitters in baseball, what are they? 3 out of 10? And they get paid all the money because they keep swinging. It's the habits. Don't worry about the strikeout. Think about the hit. And the last thing is determination. You better just have downright grit, determination to finish what you start. And don't let no man step in your way. Because what God has got in store for you, no man can stop. Because it says, God says that I will open a door that no man can close. And I will close doors that no man can open. So when I open it, you better know that it's time to step. When I put that wedge in it, there's something that you got to learn. Make that decision, discipline the habits, and go after it with downright nasty grit and determination. Those are my 3.
I feel like I gotta make that face, bro. That grit face. Everybody need a grit face. When you get all ugly, when you see COVID turn on it and you start turning black mama, you need that grit face. Boy, you make me want to make one.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I love it, man. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Now I got a lot of pressure after coming behind all 3 of you. Woo! So
come on, closer.
This is how I'm going out.
Here she go.
This is how I'm going out.
Sorry.
Starting from the bottom.
Saraí.
Now we here.
We'll go back to that. My 3 things are. My 3 things are. Number 1 is awareness. Increase your awareness of yourself. We've all said it differently. I am, all these different. So notice how we're all saying that. We're all saying increase your awareness of yourself. And I'm going to say, love every bit of it. Love every bit of who you are. Love even the stuff that happened to you happened for you. You have been gifted with like inside knowledge of what that thing feels like, where you could then serve and help others with that. So whatever happened to you happened for you. Love every bit of your journey. Love every bit of who you are. Ask your inner wisdom. Ask God, ask your spirit, what are you meant to be doing? Do it through prayer, do it through meditation, whatever it is, but figure out who you are. You know, ask yourself the questions that they didn't ask you when you figure out who you are. What do you love? What do you stand for? What are your passions? What are you great at? What are you meant to be delivering onto the world? So number 1 is awareness of that. Number 2 for me is you have to develop it. Whatever it is that you're meant to do, that because if you look at if the answer is something that you could do right now, that ain't it. That is not it. If whatever the answer is, something you could actually do, that is not it. That's just you shrinking it. You have to think of that other one, that other thing that is being told to you that you're trying to ignore. That's the one I'm talking about. You need to do that other thing that you actually have to develop some skill. You actually have to develop something inside of you to become the type of person who could do that thing that is terrifying and that you're pretending isn't there. But I know that all of you got it in you, all of you, even Miss Margarita Fowler, I mean, your mom, even your mom, everybody, we all have it inside of us and we pretend it isn't there because it's way too scary and we don't have courage. But that's the one I'm talking about. That's number 2. You need to develop that thing, develop the skills, develop whatever it is that you need to develop inside of you to be the person that can do that thing. And then my 3rd thing is, once you're aware and you figure it all out, you develop it, then the next level of courage is, because all these things, each one of these steps takes courage. The last step of courage is to deliver it. Show up, deliver it, do whatever you need to do to deliver it, because that is your purpose on earth. That is what that's what you're here for. So if you go through your whole life without going through these 3 steps, and you go your whole life with never developing it or never delivering it, man, like that seed got wasted. it got wasted. There was something that you were meant to deliver. There was something there were people that were waiting on you and you didn't do it. So don't end up with that regret in your heart. That is the most horrible thing you could imagine happening. Don't end up with that regret that you didn't do that thing that I know is inside of you. So with that being said,
Started from the bottom, now the whole
let's go
team
back
living
to
Yeah.
the bottom.
The party.
now we here.
Hi guys, we love you, and we just wanted to figure this out. We didn't hurt any feelings. Just wake up, guys. Let's do it.
Yes.